it made it so much less enjoyable than what it could have been.
I've been doing things that they told me I should never do. I've been doing things that they told me I could never do now. Never do, I could never do. I've been looking back and I'm the only one who ever knew. My dreams began to turn out.
Alright, welcome to the video, you guys. So, the topic of today's video, it's in regards to a different vacation. Florida was amazing. Did not ruin my time whatsoever. I don't have another vlog for Florida because that is how much I just needed to disconnect and just be present there with my friends and just enjoy vacation. But I got some questions and confusion as to why I was tracking on vacation from some people on Instagram and stuff like that. And I wanted to discuss that today. The last few weeks, maybe actually a month or so, I talked about this in a previous video. I haven't really been tracking or being focused on my goals. So tracking was just non-existent to me because I was feeling discouraged, and I'm not going to get into it because it doesn't even matter. I'm sick of talking about it. But I wanted to take Florida as an opportunity to kind of recharge, and that included me getting back on track. So I was tracking in Florida. Was I completely diligent with it? No. Like I've discussed, I was making an effort to hit my protein targets. And like I said, that's because of the lack of tracking and holding myself accountable that I was experiencing the last month or so. So that's why I did that. Having said that, it didn't wreck my vacation. Tracking is actually pretty second nature to me. So it wasn't a big deal, but it helped to kind of light that fire under me to get back on track and focus this last half of 2018 on myself and getting back to a place where I have that fire and drive to accomplish my goals and to be more adaptive when things such as not being able to compete get in my way. So that was the point of it. It was for myself. It's not something I typically recommend to my clients, is to track when they go on vacation, especially if they're not prepping for a show or they don't have any strict deadlines in place. I don't recommend tracking. I recommend you actually take that time off. But in my eyes, in my situation, I was already taking time off from tracking. So that was my opportunity to kind of, you know, what's the word? Like get kind of back in touch with myself and my goals and take Florida as an opportunity to get back on track versus the opposite. So that was the point of that. But getting into the actual topic of the video is I want to talk about a vacation where Kyle and I, we hired a coach and we did stay on track during vacation, and how it didn't ruin it, but it made it so much less enjoyable than what it could have been. So right after I got my CA designation, it was September of 2014, we planned a week-long trip to Whistler. Whistler, BC, if you've never been there before, it is an amazing place. I highly recommend that you check it out. It's a big tourist destination, but it is such an amazing place. We've never been there before. We both grew up in British Columbia, but we've never been to Whistler. So we went there for an entire week. About a week or 2 to 3 weeks prior to that, we hired a coach, and the protocol from that coach was to be eating clean. So we were following a meal plan. No idea about tracking. Kyle knew more about it than I did, but I was paying this coach, so I didn't want to, a week after paying him, fall off track and not follow the protocol. So the funny thing about that is this was in September, and Kyle and I were planning at the time to do a show in like May or June the following year. So we weren't even actually cutting yet. We were just kind of in a maintenance stage at that point in time. But I didn't have the knowledge or the experience to understand that. All I knew is my coach gave me this meal plan and I had to stick to it. So after about 3 years of doing my accounting designation, finally getting a break and going on vacation to Whistler, we actually packed a cooler. It was a giant cooler with all of our meals that we prepped before leaving. So this is when I was eating chicken at the time. So we had chicken and rice prepped. We brought rice cakes. What else did we have? We had, what else? Why can't I remember? There was only like 6 foods, but I think it was that. And for breakfast, it was not oatmeal, it was rice meal. Don't ever try rice meal. It's not that good. But we prepped all that, and we didn't really have a cooking area in our hotel, so we knew that prior to going, and we prepped all that. We froze it all and brought it in a giant ass cooler. Well, because even though we knew we were going to Whistler in advance, we didn't actually book a hotel. I remember this so clearly. We decided when we went to Whistler, I was like, I'm a planner, I'm a pre-planner, and I said to Kyle, we need to book a hotel. And Kyle's like, don't worry, we're gonna be free spirits, and we're just gonna show up and a room will be available. Yeah, no. We got there like 11 o'clock at night and there was basically no rooms available. So after maybe about 30 minutes to 45 minutes of calling different hotels just to see if we can find something to stay in, we found a 2-bedroom hotel room. I think it was at the coast or something. So we obviously didn't want to stay in a 2-bedroom for the full 7 weeks because that would be very expensive. So we stayed in there for 2 nights, I believe, until a 1-bedroom cleared up. And I remember us hauling this cooler around with us because we were on, like, I think the top floor, and obviously we're not going to carry this giant cooler of food prepped for an entire week to the bedroom. So we had it on like those little trolleys where you bring your baggage up. And after 2 nights, I remember being like frustrated and just kind of irritated that we had to pack everything back up and move it to another hotel room. So it's just kind of funny looking back at it now, us having to move this giant ass cooler that felt like it was controlling our entire trip between different rooms when we first got there, when we moved to the second room a few nights after, and then having to haul it out of the hotel room, like I think it was like 5 days after, 5 or 6 days after. And I remember just it taking away from the experience because, you know, there's a bunch of different restaurants and just a cool environment there. You know, it's definitely a party city. I don't even know if it's a city, a town, if you will. But, you know, like it would have been nice to have like a drink or whatever on a patio and just take in the full experience of Whistler. And I remember we ran out of chicken a couple of days after. So Kyle and I were both kind of freaking out. I was freaking out more than Kyle because Kyle already knew about flexible dieting at the time, so he had a more comfortable idea with swapping out foods for different options at restaurants, whereas me, I was like completely type A personality where I need to follow this meal plan to a T, and when I couldn't, when we ran out of chicken, I like started like freaking out. I've never told this story to anybody. This is so funny to relive. But anyway, so I remember we went to Earl's. We're like, okay, I'll just get a salad with some chicken on it. When we went to Earl's, they had no chicken. For whatever reason, they like ran out of chicken. And it was at that point that we both kind of said, screw it. We're getting 1 beer, we're getting a pizza, and we're gonna enjoy this. So we did that. And just like steering away from the plan, even though it felt good in the moment to, and just let go and enjoy some food, enjoy my vacation that I've been waiting for so long. I still felt guilty on the other end because I wasn't following the protocol. So it's just kind of funny, and I wanted to share that with you guys because, you know, there's a time and place for certain things. And if something just doesn't feel right, because it didn't feel right to me, I'm like, why am I putting myself through this unnecessary suffering right now for something that I have longed for a few years. I need a vacation, and I just need some enjoyment and liveliness back in my life after going to school for so long. And then here I am again, you know, in a place where food is just controlling the entire situation and just taking the full experience out of it. Don't get me wrong, we had an amazing trip. We made the best of it, even with me freaking out a little bit about the food. You know, I was lucky enough to have the support from Kyle to say, you know what, it's no big deal. Like, we'll be fine. We'll get back on track when we get back. There's a time and place for you to take into account whether it's worth it to track or not. You know, in my experience in Florida, that was at a time where I felt for myself that I needed to get back on track, and it felt good while I was in Florida. You know, Kyle was keeping track too. It's something nice that we can do together, and we hold each other accountable. Whereas in reverse from our experience from Whistler, you know, it didn't make sense for us, especially for myself, to be on such a strict protocol at that point in my life. So it comes with experience, and from that experience I now know in what situations when I need to just disconnect from it, or when I need to kind of hold myself more accountable and to get back on track with things. So, I mean, it all depends on your situation whether or not you need to be tracking when you go on vacation. Having said that, we haven't been back to Whistler, but we are planning on going back to Whistler sometime soon to have a comeback vacation. So I'm actually really excited for that. Anyways, you guys, I thought I'd share this story with you so you guys can get some perspective as to why I decided to track in Florida, and why I think sometimes it's important to stay on track, and why I think other times you need to listen to yourself and your situation and maybe take a break from it all. So hopefully you guys found that helpful. All right, story time is over. Hopefully you guys liked the video. If you did, do me 3 favors, you guys. Make sure you guys comment down below, subscribe to the channel. What was the other one? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. There's always 3. What's the 3rd one? Subscribe to the channel. Oh, and hit that thumbs up button. Holy cow, I haven't done this for a while. Thanks, you guys. See you in the next one. Peace.